This is Chapter 1, Part 3 of the recorded notes. And we will pick up with measurements. So there are two dominant systems. They are what we call the U.S. customary system, which y'all all are familiar with, foot, pound, second. And then the metric system, which is meters, kilograms, and seconds also. The United States is the only major country that has not made the change to the metric system. And metric system does have some advantages over the system we use in the U.S. The official version is known as the International System of Units, which is abbreviated SI. So one thing with the metric system is it eliminates the confusion of having different units and also the difficulty you will find when you convert from one to the other. By adopting a single standard for units, each basic measurement and a series of prefixes that make up the units larger or smaller by factors of 10. So it really makes it easy when you're going between the different units in the metric system because of that factor of 10. We're used to measuring things by feet, miles, sometimes yards. Well, for instance, the basic unit in the metric system is the meter, which is a little longer than a yard. This table shows you the different metric prefixes and what they mean and their abbreviations. We're going to be using probably kilo a lot, as well as centi, milli. We might use mega sometimes. Now, because all the prefixes are multiples of 10, conversions are very easy because you're just moving the decimal place. So I have an example. Because milli means 1,000s, we can convert from meters to millimeters by simply multiplying by 1,000. So there's 5,670 millimeters in 5.6 meters. Now, this is a sheet that you have in your Canvas conversions. This sheet you're allowed to use for all your exams, beginning with exam 1. This sheet gives you all the conversions, so what I recommend is you print it out and you get used to using it when you're doing the sample problems. That way your eye knows where those conversions are. I don't expect you to memorize any conversions. What I want to know is that you know how to use the conversions, not that you can just memorize them. Now, when we convert between units, the big thing is that you're going to use that conversion sheet to look up a conversion factor. Okay. When you're converting, your conversion factor, I like to say, can flip or flop, like you see examples here, depending on what you're trying to convert. So, for example, we know 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. We can arrange it as 1 inch on top, 2.54 on the bottom, or we can flip it and have 2.54 centimeters on top and 1 inch on the bottom. So the important thing to remember is you always want to write what you're going to convert first, because that can't flip or flop. And then you multiply or divide by the appropriate conversion factor. You want to make sure you always write your units and cancel your units so you know what units you end up with. So let's do some examples. Okay, here what we're trying to convert is 56 feet per hours, and we're going to meters per second. So let's do our hours. We know in 1 hour we have 60 minutes, and we know in 1 minute we have 60 seconds. So we can go ahead and cancel our hours, and we can cancel our minutes. So on the bottom, we have seconds, and that's what we want, seconds on the bottom. Now we look to our conversion factors, and we see we have 0.305 meters in 1 foot. So we check, our feet cancel each other out. So the only units you're left with is meters over seconds, and that's what your answer is. So when you calculate this, you're going to have 4.7 times 10 to the minus 3 meters per second. Okay, let's try another one. You have 5 times 10 to the 6 meters per second, and you're going to kilometers per hour. Okay, we look at our conversion sheet, and we see in 1 kilometer, we have 1,000 meters. Now that's when that kilo prefix comes in, because this same conversion factor could be used for kilogram. 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. Okay, and now we have to get to hours, so we know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, and we know in 1 minute there are 60 seconds. So we always want to check ourselves to make sure our units cancel. So we see our meters canceling, we see our seconds canceling, and we see our minutes canceling. So the units we're left with on top are kilometers, on the bottom is hours, and that's what we're asked for. So that's going to be 1.8 times 10 to the 7th kilometers per hour. Okay, let's try another one. So we have 125 centimeters per minute, and you're going to meters per second. So we know in 1 meter, we have 100 centimeters, and we know in 1 minute, we have 60 seconds. So our minutes cancel, and our centimeters cancel. So we're left with meters on top, seconds on the bottom, and that will give us 2.08 times 10 to the minus 2. Okay, and then we have 6 times 10 to the minus 4 kilometers per hour, and you're going to meters per second. So we know in 1 kilometer, we have 1,000 meters. We know in 1 hour, we have 60 minutes. And we know in 1 minute, we have 60 seconds. So again, we're going to check our units. So we see kilometers cancel, hours cancel, minutes cancel. We're left with meters over seconds, and that answer comes out to be 1.7 times 10 to the minus 4 meters per second. So in terms of significant figures, you're never going to use your conversion factors to figure out significant figures. You're going to use what you're given to convert to determine the significant figures. Okay, so for example, 56 had 2 significant figures. We want our answer to have 2 significant figures. Okay. Okay, let's try some more. So in here, you're going to millimeters to kilometers. Okay. And so we have 15 millimeters. Our conversion factor we know is 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters. So our millimeters cancel. Oops, I forgot a term because now I see I only have meters on top. Well, I'm asked for kilometers. So I need another conversion term. So I know I'm not finished. Whoops, and that erased the whole thing, which I didn't want it to do. So we had 1 meter over 1,000 millimeters. So my next conversion is going to be in 1 kilometer, I have 1,000 meters. Now when I check, I see my meters cancel. The only units I'm left with is kilometers, so I know I did it correctly. So 1.5 times 10 to the minus 5 kilometers. And as you see on your sheets, there's many different conversions. As long as your units cancel, you can use any of the conversions that would apply. So for example, another way to do this, we would have started with 15 millimeters, and let's use a different conversion. We have 0.001 meters is 1 millimeter, and then in 1 kilometer, we have 1,000 meters. So in this case, when I check my units, my millimeters cancel, my meters cancel, and I'm left with kilometers. I get the exact same answer, the 1.5 times 10 to the minus 5 kilometers. So there's not just one conversion factor that you can use. Okay, next one we have 60 miles per hour, and we're going to feet per second. So we know in 1 mile, we have 5,280 feet. In 1 hour, we have 60 minutes. And in 1 minute, we have 60 seconds. So again, we check our units. Miles cancel, hours cancel, minutes cancel. We're just left with feet per second, and that's what we're asked to find, and you should come up with 88. Okay, this next one, we have 50 miles per hour, and we're going to kilometers per hour, so we basically just need to convert miles to kilometers. So in 1 kilometer, we have 0.621 miles. Again, we check our units. Miles cancel, so we're left with kilometers per hour, and we get 80.5 kilometers per hour. Now the second one, we have a meter squared. Whatever your exponent is, that's how many conversion factors you must have. So this is squared, so I have to have 2 conversion factors. So 1 meter squared, and I'm going to millimeters squared. So I have in 1 millimeter, I have 0.001 meters, and I'm going to put another conversion factor, 0.001 meters, and that way this meter squared is going to cancel with that meter, cancel with this meter, and then I have millimeter times a millimeter, which will give me a millimeter squared. So our answer is 1 times 10 to the 6th millimeters squared. And then our last sample problem is a nice long one, in that we have 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second, and we're going to miles per year. Okay, so let's start with, we know we have 3.28 feet in 1 meter. We know we in 1 mile, we have 5,280 feet. 60 seconds in 1 minute. We have 60 minutes in 1 hour. We have 24 hours in 1 day. And we have 365 days in 1 year. So pretty long conversion factors. So let's double check ourselves. We want miles per year. So let's start with our meters are going to cancel. Our feet are going to cancel. Okay, so the only thing I have on top right now is miles in terms of a distance. Let's look at the time. So I see my seconds are going to cancel. My minutes will cancel. My hours cancel. And my days will cancel. So now I'm left with miles per year. Okay, and when I plug all that in, I should get 5.88 times 10 to the 12th miles per year. Okay, so that ends the note for Chapter 1. Your test on Chapter 1 will be about 25 questions. There will be all of the review math that we talked about. You do need to send me your scratch paper. I have a separate assignment in Canvas where you upload your scratch paper. You will be taking this exam with Honor Lock. If you have any questions about any of the material I've gone through, please send me an email or go to Connects Ed and set up an appointment where we can connect and I can clear up any confusion before you take the exam. This ends Chapter 1, Part 3.